Hello everybody and welcome to another Tech Minute video. My name is Tom from 6 Foot Networks and thank you for joining me today in the shop part of the office. Now, this one's going to be a little different because I wanted to bring back a little, sort of a blast from the past. I haven't done a video on one of these, I don't think ever, and I've been really thinking very much about them over the last few weeks. They were originally kind of an interesting concept to me as a network engineer, as a systems engineer and computer builder, and I thought, you know what, I had to have one. So first things first, have you ever seen an actual computer, a fully functional computer that can fit in the palm of your hand? Now, my palms are relatively big as a 6'5" giant, but it still fits in my palm of my hand. This, ladies and gentlemen, is the Raspberry Pi 1. Pretty much the first one that was made, and it is really old school. It was amongst my pile of stuff that I brought over to the office when I moved, and I came across it recently and I thought this would be interesting. Now, this is a Raspberry Pi, and this particular model is a 2011 model. This is the Raspberry Pi 1, and literally the label on the board says Raspberry Pi 1 2011, so 10 years. Now, I've had this the whole time because I was really interested in it, and I was just flabbergasted at the effort that was put into this original design. Now, you can see that everything is on one board, and it's a little old school, so let me bring it closer to you here. So it's got this header, this GPIO header, that you can expand the functionality of this Raspberry Pi. There's also a camera header here. I can't tell which one's which, but one of them's for the camera and one of them's for display, that you can actually expand functionality to it, because as you can see, this is the entire computer that you get. Everything else is up to you to provide. This is composite video out. This is an analog audio output there. It came with two USB 2 ports. I'm pretty sure those are USB 2. Might be USB 1, I'm not sure. This is, I know for a fact, because I had a lot of issues with it in the past, a 10100 megabit Ethernet port, a full-size HDMI port right here, and then a little tiny USB port right there for powering the device. And you can see there's no hard drive on this, but if you flip it over, there is an SD card slot right there. And when I got this with a branded Raspberry Pi SD card. So, and I think this is 8 gigs. And this is it. This was it. This is a fully functioning computer. If I were to give it power through USB and plug in a network cable, I don't know what's on this card or what state it is, so I wouldn't want to do that without at least booting it up and making sure it's to a decent state. But this will run a Linux distribution called Raspbian, because that's what I was into when I got this Raspberry card. But you can configure these for any number of things. You know, one of my things was DNS server. This was my old DNS server until I retired it. And also, you know, with this, I also bought this cool little case to protect it. You can see it's already hazed over and cloudy. This was crystal clear when I bought it, and it even has the ability to mount it on a wall with these little I guess screw hooks, whatever those are called. It also has these rubber feet where you can put it on a surface, and it's pretty decent. And this is the lid to it. Now, I also went the next step and I got a wireless adapter for it. the older Raspberry Pis did not have built-in wireless. This was at a time when wireless was prime, and they couldn't put it on here. Now the newer ones, they have wireless built in, and also they have gigabit Ethernet, many more USB ports. This one only has 2, and the built-in wireless. But I just thought I'd keep this together as a kit because this is how I used it. In fact, that wireless adapter, I think if I remember correctly, you had to run like 3 or 4 commands to get this to work. I know you had to install the driver every time the thing booted, and then you had to mod probe it to get it to run, essentially. But I gotta tell you, this is really great. And you know, one of the things that really stands out about these, and you know, these are still made today. You know, I think they're at Raspberry Pi 4 now, 4 Model B, I think. And there's several flavors of these. There's the standard Raspberry Pi that has all the I/O, you know, USB, Ethernet, HDMI, and a few other like built-in wireless and stuff like that. But they also have compute nodes that are smaller, like about 2/3 the thickness, about the same length, if you will. Yeah, I guess length and width. And they only have the processor, which is that. And actually I looked up the specs to this because I thought I'd share those while I was at it. And essentially those things are just compute nodes where there's no, you know, fancy interfacing with it. You just connect to it via the network and you send some form of job to it depending on what its task is. It'll just process it away. And you can cluster these. One of the best things about these particular things, and the fact that they run standard Linux distributions that you can configure and tune however you want, is you can install, you know, software that'll actually allow the use of parallel processing. If you have, say, 10 of these or whatever, you can slice up information and have them process it. Render nodes. That was the one idea that I really had high hopes for. Unfortunately, my budgets didn't allow for building out animation render nodes, but maybe now I'll look into doing that and trying to build something that some kind of a Linux-based render farm can use as a back-end, you know, hardware. But I'm gonna quickly go down the list of hardware because I don't want to make this video 50 minutes. So this one features a Broadcom BCM 2835 system on chip. It is a 700 megahertz ARM 1176 JZF S-Core CPU. It's got a Broadcom Video Core 4 GPU. That's on here too. It's probably this little guy right here. It's got a 1/2 gig of RAM, 512 megabytes of RAM, 2 USB 2.0 ports. It's got video out via composite, which supports PAL and NTSC. And then on the other side, it has HDMI, and then also the raw LCD ribbon cable, which I can't remember which one it was because they're both the same interface. Here's one and here's the other, but one is one and one's the other. One's in, the other one's out. Then you have an audio out via 3.5 millimeter audio jack, and it also supports embedded audio over the HDMI. The storage is this, the SD card. It's got 10100 Ethernet via RJ45, and it's got its low-level peripherals are 8 times GPIO pin headers, UART, I2C bus, SPI bus with 2 chip selects, positive 3.3 volt, positive 5 volt, and ground. So you have 8 pins on here. Let me bring that closer, see if I can get that to light up. Okay, it's probably a little out of focus, so forgive me. But 8 of these are essentially I/O, and then you have 3.3 volt on one of them, one pair, 5 volt on one pair, and then ground on a set of these. That's what will make up all these pins here. The power requirements are 5 volts, 700 milliamps via micro USB, or you can actually power these via the GPIO header. And one of the other cool things about this as time went on, and I think the Raspberry 2s and above, Raspberry Pi 2s and above supported, was what was called a top hat for power over Ethernet, that you can just snap on it and it would handle networking and power to the device via the GPIO pins. And then let's see, this will support Debian Linux, Fedora, Arch Linux, RISC OS, and many more. This is ARM based, so it's not x86 like Intel or AMD architecture. You need a special distribution that'll run on this architecture. So you can't, like, I mean, I guess by now people have figured out how to run Windows on these, or I don't know about Mac OS. Not saying it's not possible, but Mac OS would be definitely much harder than Windows. And I've heard in the past that people have run Windows on these. I don't know what their performance was like, and I don't ever plan on loading Windows on mine. This is, like I said, this is a 10-year-old museum piece for me that I'm really starting to get back into. So the dimensions of this guy in millimeters and metrics are 85.6 by 56 millimeter by 21 millimeters tall, right? So 86, 56, 21. So, and this thing probably weighs a couple of grams. It's, if I had to guess, I'd say the USB and Ethernet ports were the heaviest part of this, but all in all, this probably weighs, 2 or 3 ounces, nothing crazy. So yeah, there's a lot of use cases for these, specifically servers, because they don't have displays or, real ease of access when it comes to I/O as far as, interfacing with it, even though you do have HDMI, USB, and all these other like nifty things. This particular model would run a full graphical interface that you could watch movies from. In fact, I don't remember, but I think this supported native H.264 at a 40 megabit per second stream. Not bad, if you ask me, for something that's, I think this was $30. $30 US is what I paid for this. And they're continuing the trend. And if I recall correctly, this, somebody correct me in the comments, I think that the whole intention of these was to teach electronics to kids, because this is a whole functioning computer, and you can easily, give this to a child and have them be fascinated by it. In fact, I will pass this down to my kid once I replace it with a Raspberry Pi 4, but this one still has, content and data on it that I intend on rescuing off this card, assuming it still works. And I will bring that over to a new Raspberry Pi. And my hope is to free off large servers. So one of my concerns has been power consumption, especially with utilities going up. And for those who follow my channel pretty vividly or may know me personally, will know that I've been advocating for energy efficiency over the last year and a half, maybe 2 years. And the reason for that is because, especially in the state of California, where energy costs are super high. They're some of the highest in the country in terms of per kilowatt hour. I've been pushing solar, I've been pushing, replacement of appliances, and trying to get the whole idea out that, hey, using less power can be better for the planet. In fact, can is the wrong word to use, is better for the planet. Most of you know, if you follow my channel, that I drive an EV. I drive a 2020 Chevy Bolt EV, and it's, in my opinion, the best car that I've ever had in terms of power, in terms of torque, in terms of going from A to B on a charge, and how far I can go on a charge, which is roughly around 255 miles. I know the EPA rating on it is 259, so it's pretty close. Unlike with a gasoline engine, I was usually off by 75 miles from what the EPA said. But in any case, my point was that I'm advocating for efficiency, so I want to take some of my Linux servers that I have that are the size of average pizza boxes, and I want to put them on this. So this little guy can probably handle 2 or 3 network services all by himself. So if I were to get 2 of these and run them in a primary, secondary scenario, I could easily have a primary DNS service and a secondary DNS service, you know, or do a forward and a lookup only scenario. I don't know, I'm just spitballing here, but this could also, I guess if you had more than one network interface on this, you could also use this as a router and install, I don't know, maybe an open WRT install on this. Like I said, I don't know what this would support because this is 10 years old and I don't have necessary bandwidth to experiment with it, but I can tell you that the engineers over in the UK that designed these have a special place in my heart, because the fact that this is a fully functioning computer that you can get now for around $30, and I think even the new ones are somewhere around there. They may be a little bit more because there's more tech and built-in wireless. This one doesn't have wireless. Like I said, I had to use a dongle for it, a USB dongle. Oh my God, I just noticed the label, 150 megabits. I guess that was the cheese back then. My guess is also this is 802.11a. No, I guess A was 54. This might be G, 802.11g, I don't know. But anyway, I think this is one of the greatest things that man has invented, and I hope that you can find some time to look into this, because you can learn a lot from this. And as far as a computer goes, this has pretty much everything that any of those computers have. I mean, there's a MacBook up there, 3 Mac Minis there. There's also an Acer laptop over there that's for sale. Hit me up if you're interested in a 2018 model Acer laptop. Windows 10, and it's clean. I rescued it and I factory loaded it. But if you're interested in this, please drop me a line and let me know what you would use this for, because I'm kind of curious what a use case might be outside of a traditional server. You know, I am definitely going to look at clustering a few of these together and doing a Kubernetes cluster. I know that's been done by a lot of people over the internet. I know Network Chuck did one. I know Jeff Geerling is huge on these. He loves his Raspberry Pis, so shout out to those guys for keeping it real and keeping it going and educating the world on what the potentials are for one of these. In the meantime, you know it. If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. It really helps us out. And if you really, really like this video, then please consider subscribing to the channel, as it really helps us grow and it allows us to create more content like this for you in the future. Thank you for watching, and in the meantime, good luck with everything and all the best.